Hey everyone! So last time we learned how to solve quadratics using the square root formula, or the square root method, and unfortunately that only works some of the time. We also learned how to solve quadratics using factoring, but that also only works some of the time. Our final method for solving quadratics is going to be using the quadratic formula. And this method works to solve any quadratic equation. So we can use this for any quadratic that we are given, and therefore it is the best and potentially easiest method. Okay? So in order to use our quadratic formula, the quadratic equation must be in standard form and set equal to 0. So standard form, set equal to 0. Alright? And just in case we don't really remember what standard form is, that is going to be y equals, I'm going to put everything in a different color, ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so that is our standard form. And our quadratic formula is going to be negative parentheses b, and then plus or minus the square root parentheses b squared minus 4 times your a value, and then times your c value, all divided by 2 times your a value. So I'm hoping the different colors will kind of help you see where everything goes. Everything in green is part of the quadratic formula. Everything in orange is your b value. Everything in red is your a value. And then purple is your c value. Sorry guys, I know the bell's obnoxious. Alright, so let's look at our first example. So the very first thing that we have to do is make sure that we are set equal to 0. Okay? So we need to subtract this 2 from both sides. Because remember, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So you get 2x squared plus 9x plus 7. Sorry, that is kind of hard to see. Alright, and then what I want you to do next is list your a, b, and c. So our a is going to be 2. I'm going to try to do this in different colors. Our b, same colors, is going to be 9. And our c is going to be 7. Okay, let's make sure that you can see that. There we go. Okay. Just like it was up here, same colors. That way I can use the same colors when substituting into our formula. So now we get to plug it in. So now substitute into equation. And I'm going to do this on this side of the page, okay, because it's going to take up some space. So we're going to have negative parentheses, our b value is 9. And then we are going to plus or minus, and I'll explain that in a minute, the square root, because right now I just want us to be able to substitute everything in. Our b is 9. We're going to square that, minus 4 times our a, which is 2, times our c, which is 7, all divided by 2 times our a, which is 2. Okay? So that's the quadratic formula. That's how we substitute it in. Okay? And this is almost exactly how you are going to substitute it into your calculator. Okay? The only thing that might be a little bit tricky is this plus or minus. All this means is that you have to do it twice. You have to put it into your calculator once with a plus sign and then again with a minus sign. Okay? So let me show you what I mean. Let me grab my calculator. So in your calculator, the very first button, let me clear that out, that I want you to press is going to be the n divided by d button. This is automatically going to set you up in a fraction, which is going to make life a lot easier for you. Okay? And then, let me see if I can get the full calculator up here. Scooch, no. Let's do that. There we go. Oh, almost. Ah, sorry guys. Cameras are hard. Okay. No, I'm still not getting the button in the shot. There we go. Okay. Whew. That was a lot of effort. So, it says -9. So you need to start by pressing the negative button. And then parentheses, 9, and parentheses. Okay? Now, always start with plus, because that's just easier. So you press the plus button. And then to get the square root, you need to press the second button, and then this x squared button. And that will give you the square root. And then parentheses, 9, and parentheses, and then square it. Whatever you do, do not press this button. Okay? Just keep typing. And now this is the only minus button you're going to press here. And then 4, parentheses, 2, and parentheses, 7, and parentheses. Okay? And then press this button to go down the fraction. And then 2, parentheses, 2. And it gives you your answer. So our first answer, when we have plus, it's going to be x equals -1. Alright? Now, to do the second equation, where you have to do the minus, you can absolutely type all of this back in, but it would be so much easier if you pressed this button right here to highlight the -1, highlight the equation again, and press enter. And then, do you see how it's blinking right there? That means that you can go through and alter your equation. Okay, so I'm going to scroll all the way back to the plus sign. Whoops, too far. And just have it blinking on top of the plus sign and press this minus button right here. And that automatically changes it to a minus, and then you can just press enter. And so then, when we do minus, our x equals -7/2. And those are our two answers. And what this means is that when we graph, my mouse disappeared, is that when we graph this quadratic, this is where our graph crosses the x-axis. These are our solutions, our roots, our zeros, okay? So that's what those mean. So let me look at this equation. So if it looked something like that, then it would cross at -1, which might be right there, and then -7/2, which might be right there. So it would cross here and here. That's what these answers mean. It's where it crosses your x-axis. Okay? Alrighty. Moving on to our next example. Okay. We have 4x squared equals 1 minus 4n. I always like to get all of my everything over to the left-hand side and have the 0 on the right-hand side. So in order to get the right-hand side to be a 0, I need to subtract 1. Okay, that's a very good start. And then I get 4x squared minus 1. That cancels out, equals 4n. But that's still not equal to 0, so I need to do it again. Only now I need to subtract 4n from both sides. And since 4n does not have a like term, oh, this is supposed to be an x, I'm sorry. Ah, typos. And so this is going to be 4x squared minus 4x minus 1. Okay. So we set our equation equal to 0. Now we need to list our a, b, and c. So our a is going to be 4. Our b is negative 4. And our c is negative 1. Oops, sorry, forgot to set this actually equal to 0. There we go. And now, to put it in our quadratic formula, we're going to have negative. I'm going to put it down here. Our b value is negative 4. And then plus or minus the square root of our b of negative 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 1, all divided by 2 times our a, which is 4. Okay? And honestly, this right here and right here are why I put parentheses around everything. Because a lot of times people will say, oh, b is negative 4, I can just have negative 4, and they will forget about this outside parentheses. They will also, in their calculator, put negative 4 squared into their calculator, just like this. But negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. So your calculator doesn't always understand what you're trying to say, which is why you have to have parentheses. Okay? So we're going to type this into our calculator. Alright, so I have negative 4 plus the square root of negative 4 squared. Oops. Put it over. Oh, could have done it this whole side the whole entire time. Sorry, guys. Okay? And then minus 4 times negative 1, all divided by 2 times 4. Press enter, and it looks a little bit scary, but honestly, that's okay. So for our plus, we get, x equals the square root of 2 plus 1 over 2. Alright. And then to get minus, just press enter. And press this button a lot. And then change it to minus. And this time, we will get, when we do minus, x equals negative square root 2 plus 1 over 2. And so those are our answers. Okay? Alright, let's try the back page. Alright, so number 3. We need to get it set equal to 0, so we are going to subtract 3x from both sides, 3x squared from both sides, excuse me. So we get negative 3x squared plus 2x plus 5 equals 0. Okay. We are going to list our a, b, and c. Guys, come on now. Nope, we're good. Okay. So a equals negative 3, b equals 2, c equals 5. Because remember, it's all based on ax squared plus bx plus c. So your a is always going to be attached to the x squared, your b is always attached to the x, your c is always by itself. Okay? So then, oh, and also the quadratic equation or formula will be provided to you, so it's not something that you have to memorize, but it could be helpful. It'll make it go a lot faster. That way you don't have to keep checking if you're doing the right thing. So we're going to have negative b plus or minus the square root of, b squared, which is 2 squared, minus 4 times our a times our c, all divided by 2 times RA. Okay, so we're going to type that into our calculator. There we go. So we're doing negative, whoops, that's not what we're doing. We've got to press the n divided by d button first for negative parentheses 2 plus square root 2 squared minus 4 parentheses negative 3 5 all divided by 2 times negative 3. And it gives us, when we add, that x is negative 1. And then again, we're just going to highlight and press this button a whole bunch of times. Oops, too far. And press minus. And we get, when we subtract, x equals 5/3. Okay? And please remember, on your test, I only need 2 things. I need you to show me that you can plug it into your formula, and I need your answers. Okay? This is 1 point. This is 1 point. All right. Number 4. We need to add 9. Oh, I love this problem. So we get negative 3x squared plus 12 equals 0. Okay, now we're going to list out our A, B, and our C. Our A is negative 3, our B, and our C. Alright, so A is obvious, but what's our B value? And please remember, it's all based on ax squared plus bx plus c. So I want you to compare this to this. Obviously we have our x squared term. But do we have an x term? No, we don't. So our b is going to be 0. And then our c is going to be 12, because 12 does not have a letter with it. And so now we can just substitute it into our equation. So we get negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Okay. The most common mistakes that I see when you guys type this into your calculator is the pluses and minuses. There should only be 2 subtraction signs. This one right here, and this one when you use it. Okay? Everything else should be a negative. Also, another common mistake that I see is that you guys forget the square root, and you guys forget to divide. Alright. But we've done all that, so now n divided by d button, negative 0. Yes, I am aware that it's 0, so you don't technically have to put it there, but I think it's better practice that you do so that you don't miss anything. And then all divided by 2 times negative 3. Okay? And I added, so x equals negative 2. And then I'm going to press this button a whole bunch of times, and I wonder if you guys can guess what the answer will be even before I click enter on my calculator. It's 2. Okay. I was just curious if you guys could guess that. Okay. And last one for these notes. This one requires a little bit more work because we have 2 terms on the right hand side that we need to get rid of. So minus 2x squared and then minus 3. And that cancels to be 0 and equals 0. Okay, oh, need to scooch up a little bit. There we go. Alrighty, now list out what your A, your B, and your C are. A is 2, B is -7, and C is going to be 0, because we don't have one, which is okay. Alright, so now we have negative our B value plus or minus the square root of our B squared minus 4 times A times our C, all divided by 2 times our A. Alright. We're just going to type that into our calculator. Whoops, I forgot something. I forgot to press the N divided by D button. Hoping you guys caught that when you guys were typing it into your calculator, as I'm sure you were doing. And all divided by 2A. So that's going to give us 7 over 2. So when we have positive, x is 7 over 2. And then we're going to highlight it and change our answers to a minus, and we get 0. Interesting. Oops, I used that one. Oops, I always do that. Alrighty, so just a couple of other things. Sometimes when you do the quadratic formula, you are going to get an answer that's going to give you a domain error. And the reason why is because of this square root, okay? When we were doing radicals, do you remember what would happen if we had a negative under our square root? That's right, we would get a domain error. So if you ever get a domain error, that just means no solutions, okay? No real solutions anyway. Alrighty, well, that's it for these notes. If you have any questions, please let me know.